This podcast is made possible by you, the supporters of WPLN and WNXP, Nashville Public Radio.
This is the Nashvillager Podcast. It's April 23rd, 2025. Today, at the Vatican, the body of Pope Francis is being moved to St. Peter's Basilica to lie in state ahead of his funeral mass on Saturday. I'm Nina Cardona, and this is your daily digest of what's happening around Middle Tennessee with historical context from Nashville Public Radio, WPLN News. One of the main issues Pope Francis consistently spoke about or acted on was care for migrants and refugees. Early in his papacy, he spoke out about what he called the globalization of indifference to the plight of people who risk their lives trying to make it to a nation or continent that is safer than the place where they were born. At one point, he even sent the Vatican's plane to Syria to rescue families who then resettled in Rome. And that's right in line with the work of Catholic Charities of Tennessee here in Nashville. But that's about to change, kind of. Middle Tennessee is hardly a Catholic hotbed. If anything, this area is solidly the territory of evangelical Protestants like Baptists and Church of Christ. Only about 7% of Tennessee Christians are Catholic. But for more than 60 years, the religious organization that has taken the lead in helping refugees who resettle here has been an arm of the Catholic Church. They worked with people who had to flee their homes in fear of persecution or death. These are people who may have spent months in makeshift camps before arriving in the United States. Many refugees arrive here with nothing but the clothes on their backs. They need a safe place to live, of course, but they also need to start rebuilding their lives in this new place, learning how to navigate a society that's foreign to them. And Catholic Charities helped with all of that, securing an apartment and furnishing it, teaching folks English, helping them get set up with jobs and health care, enrolling kids in school, showing them where the grocery stores are and how our transit system works. Through the years, the group has partnered pretty closely with the federal government. They've essentially been a contractor for the Office of the State Department that administers the government's refugee resettlement efforts in Tennessee. In that capacity, they've helped thousands of people. Now that partnership is over. The diocese sent out an announcement this month saying the Trump administration's cutbacks froze funding for their work. As a result, the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops decided to end their relationship with the government. Here locally, that's meant layoffs for 27 people who worked on the Refugee Assistance Program. But the paid staff have never been the entirety of the operation at Catholic Charities. The group has long utilized a core of volunteers. They're raising money from private donations, and local leaders are hopeful they may see at least some of the federal funding restored eventually. In just a few minutes, this week's edition of What, Where, Wednesday. That's coming up after the newscast.
You've got a lot of things to keep track of. Work schedules, family activities, the ever-growing list of things you need to remember to do. Updating the credit card or banking information for your sustaining membership may have slipped your mind. With just 2 minutes of your time, you can update your payment information and check one more thing off your list. Peace of mind for you, funding for your public radio station. Go online to WPLN.org.
Here's the latest from WPLN News. The Tennessee General Assembly has adjourned for the year, having passed a slew of bills yesterday. WPLN's Miriam reports on what passed and what didn't in the last few days of session.
The state's private prisons will have their population reduced if the death rate gets too high under a measure passed this week. The Republican-led General Assembly also passed bills that ban employers from considering race, gender, or ethnicity when hiring. Democratic Majority Leader Karen Camper argues the legislation denies the experiences of Black Tennesseans.
I didn't come, all this way to just not move things forward for our people. We were elected to lead, not to deny the truth, and not to silence our pain.
And a closely watched measure that would have allowed schools to refuse undocumented students stalled in the House. It would have caused Tennessee to lose out on more than $1 billion in federal funding, as it violates the Civil Rights Act of 1964. That bill could be back next year as House leadership asks the Trump administration to find a way around federal requirements. Mariana Baca-Yao, WPLN News.
The Tennessee Human Rights Commission is one step closer to being moved under the direction of the Attorney General's office. The state Senate passed the bill 27-6. Placing the commission under the auspices of the AG's office means Attorney General Jonathan Skrmetti would ultimately be responsible for investigating discrimination complaints against employers or housing providers. Democrats say that's like letting the fox loose into the henhouse. Some commission staff members also expressed concern about the fate of open cases. The measure passed in the House last week. It now goes to the governor's desk for his signature. Wetlands across the state will soon be open for construction. The Tennessee legislature passed a bill to remove legal protections for a significant portion of the state's wetlands. WPLN's Caroline Eggers reports that if the governor signs the bill into law, it will have serious consequences for Tennessee people, animals, and water.
Developers will be able to build faster and cheaper because the proposed law cuts some regulations on wetlands. And builders will no longer be financially incentivized to construct around wetlands. Grace Stranch, director of the Harpeth Conservancy, says our existing protections help developers to pause and perhaps consider what it means to lose a limited natural resource, because they'd either avoid wetlands or pay to replace the lost functions and value.
And so it didn't mean that they wouldn't develop, but it means that they had that intention and they had to really think about it. And now that intention is gone in so many ways, which is really heartbreaking.
It's kind of like trees. If there are strong regulations, developers usually build around trees. But it's cheaper and technically easier just to clear nature out of the way. With wetlands, developers will be able to cover the spongy, water-holding soil with concrete without much thought. So now, Governor Bill Lee will make the final call. Will he maintain our long-standing protections of wetlands, or let developers control the decision? Caroline Eggers, WPLN News.
The New York Times has published a third investigation of Acadia Healthcare, a Franklin-based company that operates mental health facilities nationwide. This piece focuses on several tragedies in an Illinois facility. It says that poor oversight and staffing stoked a dangerous environment at the center where multiple patients died of suicide or were sexually assaulted. In a few years, Bridgestone Arena will look quite different. There will be 2 adjoining towers, a new rooftop with a bar, an additional entrance, a new area for restaurants and shops, and much of the exterior will be replaced with windows and digital screens. All of this is part of a new redevelopment plan led by the Nashville Predators. The Tennessean reports a 3-year project will expand the arena by 175,000 square feet and add 600 to 700 seats. The $650 million project will be paid for by ticket sales and sales tax revenue generated inside the arena. The Predators hope to have it mostly done by 2030, though the 2 new towers will likely take longer to build. To finish the project, Bridgestone will shut down for a few months every summer, starting in 2027. $400 million. That's roughly how much the collective assessed value of some of Nashville's biggest downtown office towers dropped as part of this year's reappraisal. The National Business Journal chalks up the plunge to changes in work habits following the pandemic, along with some recent distress sales. Earlier this year, a pair of downtown office buildings sold for $115 million less than what they went for 5 years earlier. Davidson County's new assessed property values came out last week. The county's overall median value for residential and commercial increased 45%. Metro Nashville Public Schools paid nearly $500,000 to a con artist posing as a construction company. The district and the company WebCon have worked together since 2021, and both sides are blaming each other for the mistake. The Tennessean reports the company filed a lawsuit stating that someone hacked their online account. The hacker then posed as a company member and provided MNPS with new banking information. WebCon said this could have been avoided had MNPS not ignored the red flags, including the sudden change in payment method. WebCon said MNPS denied its request for payment. It tried to contact the school district's legal department, but sent its claim to someone who no longer works there. In December, the Nashville music scene mourned the death of country soul artist Larissa J. She'd planned to release new material, and senior music writer Julie Height reports her brother is ensuring that still happens.
When artists pass too soon, we often mourn the music they didn't get the chance to make and share with the world.
My name is Larissa J. I'm an artist. I'm here in Nashville, Tennessee.
People who followed Jay felt that loss acutely. When I interviewed her in 2023, she was energized about finally seeing her labor bear fruit. As a Black woman doing her own vital, vigorous form of country music, she stood out when she started playing around town 20 years ago.
And they were like, what's this Black girl doing here with this guitar?
Still, Jay insisted on developing her voice and carving out a place for herself in the scene. She used savvy and hustle to fill her schedule with live gigs, including a residency at a club on Lower Broad. She was especially proud of that. But she only had a handful of songs out when she died. Her brother, novelist C.M. James, started a label to put out her recordings, beginning with No Other Face Like Mine.
I thought maybe it's my jeans, maybe it's my style, something in my teeth, is my hair going wild. Then I realized there's just no other face in this room quite like mine.
It's a reminder of how Jay turned that traditional country song setting, the bar room, into a place where she confronted and transformed perceptions. Her commitment and charisma said she did belong where she wanted to be. Julie Height, WPLN News.
An invasive insect and crop pest is back in Tennessee, and the state's Division of Natural Areas is asking people to report any sightings. The spotted lanternfly could be mistaken for a butterfly, but it's known to attack dozens of plant species, including important crops. It also feeds on ornamentals, fruit trees, maple, walnut, and poplar. Originally from Asia, it's been found in Davidson and Wilson counties. State officials ask anyone who sees a spotted lanternfly to take a picture of it, note the time and place, and report it on the Protect Tennessee Forests Report a Pest page. You'll find more news anytime at WPLN.org. Book lovers, your annual holiday is nearly here, and Marquise has more about it.
I'm Marquise Munson, here with another edition of Nashville Public Radio's What We're Wednesday, keeping you up to date with the happenings in Nashville this week. Tomorrow, the 2025 Titans Draft Party is at Nissan Stadium. Live music opportunities begin Friday night with Rap Ferreira at Dark Matter and Sharon Van Etten and the Attachment Theory at Brooklyn Bowl. Japanese Breakfast and Ginger Root is at the Ryman on Monday, and there's a collection of shows on Tuesday from Lucy Dacus to Dead, Mama, and Sasami. For more events, head over to WNXP.org/events. This week for What We're Wednesdays, we discussed the 12th annual Independent Bookstore Day happening this week. Participating stores in Middle Tennessee include Parnassus, Fairy Tales, The Bookshop, The Grumpy Book Peddler, and more. But today we talk with the owners of Novelette, located in East Nashville.
My name is Jordan Trombley, and I'm one of the co-owners of Novelette Booksellers in Nashville, Tennessee. The idea of having a bookstore was always kind of a dream that I had in the back of my head, but it's kind of one of those businesses that people try to warn you about, that it's a dying industry, no one reads anymore, blah, 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 blah. You have to be a fool to compete with Amazon. I listened to the haters for a little bit, and I kept that fear in the back of my mind, and I never did it. And then 2020 happened, and I had a lot of free time to think about what I actually wanted to do. I was furloughed from work. I was waitressing, so obviously there was no restaurants in the very beginning of the pandemic. And my co-owner, DZ, was on tour, and so music was really slowing down too. So we both had a lot of time to think about what we wanted to do. And I was like, you know what? Life is really crazy. We never thought we'd live through this. So why don't we just kind of go off on this like dream of what would we really want to do when the time came? And we consider things, like what is a job that doesn't hurt people? What is a job that is community focused? What is a job that is something we care about? A bookstore kind of fit all of those. And we just decided that crazier things have happened. This isn't that scary of a dream, and we'll just try. And that's kind of how Novelette came to birth. We're at Greenwood and Chapel. We're in an old church that is now refitted into commercial space. There's switch yards here. There's the Yellow Table Cafe. We have apartments above us. So it's kind of really a little community hub. We watched this location be behind a chain link fence for about a decade and wondered, are we going to get a tear down? One day we saw the gates come down and said, hey, that would be an awesome place to have a bookstore. And that's where we are. Nashville, I'm sure NPR has heard many a story about rising rent. And for commercial space, that's true. And so for the little guy, our biggest hiccup is always just managing rent. And with that just increasing, and book prices kind of increasing and minimum wage not increasing, we're kind of in the same bubble of everyone else. Is we want to have this space that is here that isn't a Target, because, you can go to Target and walk around, but I don't really think of Target as somewhere I go to make friends or get involved in my community. I've never seen a poster board at Target and been like, wow, I'm going to join this organization. We have that battle, but we also offer so much more than the spaces that, sure, you could walk in and go to Target and buy this book. You can order it off Amazon. But again, I've never made friends on Amazon, and just like the perks of what we have here are so special that when people come in and see it, I think it's hard to deny why they want to support us. We offer 2 different book clubs. We do our fiction book club, which we house in our shop, and that's once a month. And we kind of just choose that book either based on a month that's celebrating a certain marginalized group, or we try to highlight authors that maybe kind of coincide with the theme of that month of what we're working on. And that's a really fun way for people to get to know each other. We've had a few groups of girlfriends and guys who come in and have become a solid crew just from the book club. So that's been really fun to see. I personally run a social justice-based book club that we do on Zoom. And that kind of was in response to kind of the changing times. And, people voiced a real big concern for needing tools and community in that arena. So we've also kind of created this new crew of people who are getting involved with mutual aid and other organizations within the town. And so that's great. We always have authors coming in to either do signings or conversations with other authors. We've even done really fun stuff like just a zine making class with one of our friends, Malika from NPR down the street. So we've done a little bit of everything. We do little markets in summer. We always, it'll be our 3rd birthday, but we throw a big birthday party where we invite our neighbors to come. And really, if it's anything kind of happening around the street, we usually try to just pop in and be a part of.
For more information on Independent Bookstore Day and other events happening this week, visit WNXP.org. My name is Marquise Munson, and thank you for listening to another edition of What Were Wednesdays.
Thanks for listening to the Nash Villager podcast. We take this look at Nashville news every weekday. If you like it, go ahead and subscribe on your favorite podcasting app and tell a friend or give us a mention on your socials. It really helps get the word out. And of course, everything at WPLN News is listener supported. You can become a member at WPLN.org. And that's it for today. Thanks so much for listening. Let's make this day a good one, and we'll catch back up tomorrow.